Dodgebolt. Just the name itself. Dodgebolt. Where the top two teams, aka the two with the most points, square off in a divided arena that shrinks with every player hit by an arrow. The rules are pretty straightforward. Each team starts with one arrow and everybody has a bow. Your goal is to eliminate everyone on the other team whilst not getting eliminated yourself. Various tactics are used, such as giving the best player on your team all of the arrows and in turn shooting at the best players on the opposing team, so yours can have the advantage. Various dodges and jukes can be seen in play to try and trip up the shooter. All of this adds up to a perfectly simple, intense and enjoyable final battle between the two highest scoring teams in the tournament. Now obviously, you've seen the title, you kinda get what this video is about. I would like to mention that what I talk about in this video can be summarized in 1 to 2 sentences, but frankly it wouldn't provide enough context and there are a lot of elements to it. I also want to mention right here and now that I love Minecraft Champions. In fact, I love it so much I made a video about it. It was when Dream, Sap, George, and Carl won MCC 11. Listen to my audio and tell me I'm not having a blast watching the finale. Yes! Yeah! Woo!
Wait, they missed me, now they gotta kill me.
Yes!
Right.
Yes!
Nice. Get it.
No! Come on, Dream. Please. Please.
Wait, go.
Yeah! Woo! Nice.
Okay.
Nice! Oh!
They're gonna go for 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh my God!
You're clutch it up, baby.
George, please! Yes! Let's go, George! Yes! Let's go, George!
Here, George.
Yes!
Nice.
Sit. Come on!
Let's go!
Yeah! Let's go! Let's go! And lastly, I also want to mention that the current format for MCC Dodgebolt is fine, and I'm not saying that it should be changed. I don't even know if the developers and managers of MCC think it should be changed. And frankly, I'm not even saying anything in this video should affect the current format of MCC Dodgebolt. It's just something that was bugging me. So here we go. So what in my eyes is wrong with the current Dodgebolt format? Well, honestly, I have 2 problems. One isn't as arguable as the other since it is the format they chose, and honestly, Dodgebolt works well enough as it is currently. It's the second problem I have with Dodgebolt that validates my first problem a bit more. So let's start with problem number 1. Neither team has any given advantage in Dodgebolt, aka they're on the same playing field. During the beginning of every game of Dodgebolt, each team has one arrow and complete control over when they grab it along with when and who they shoot at. In my opinion, this should be changed. I mean, if you look at some of the world sports, you'll notice a few of them that give the team with the most points or wins some sort of advantage, like playing at home more than going on the road and so on. They do this in American baseball, basketball, hockey, and even in the NFL, aside from the Super Bowl. You could also argue the other way, that there's no need to give first place an even bigger advantage than being first. You could also argue that whilst MCC is competitive, it's supposed to be fun, and giving first place in Dodgeball some sort of advantage would spoil the fun for second place and make the outcomes more predictable. And frankly, I agree with that. The beauty of Dodgeball is that you can say that first place should in theory win the game, but that's not always the case. There have been plenty of times where second place wins Dodgeball, and that's what makes Dodgeball so fun. Each team isn't given an advantage of any kind, making the games less predictable, and in turn, opinionatedly more fun. And as I said before, if this problem was the only problem, then I wouldn't even be making this video. But obviously, I am, and that is because of Dodgebolt's second problem. My issue is, in extremely simplified terms, the team that fires the first arrow in a game of Dodgebolt is at an automatic disadvantage. It's the truth. Don't believe it? How about an example? So let's say, for example, Team A and Team B are squaring off in a game of Dodgebolt with the current format in effect. Team A fires their arrow and gets a hit. Now Team B has both arrows playing a player down. They return the gesture by eliminating 2 of Team A's players, making the current player count 2 players for Team A and 3 for Team B. Keep in mind, this is after 1 exchange from each team. Now Team A has their chance to unleash on Team B, and they get 2 hits, meaning now Team B only has 1 player left, but with both of the arrows. The pressure is at its highest. The blood cells are pumping. Is this Team B's demise? How about no? How about Team B fires both of their arrows and eliminates both of Team A's players? And like that, the game is over, with Team B reigning victorious. It was a hard-fought game, and the odds were against them, but Team B pulled it off. And on the surface, there may appear to be nothing wrong with this example, until you consider one thing. In the example I used, both of the teams started off with an arrow and a full roster of 4. Team A fired the first arrow, eliminating a member of Team B. Team B then eliminates 2 players, Team A eliminates 2 players, followed by Team B eliminating the last 2 members of Team A, resulting in a Team B victory. But doesn't that seem odd, how nobody missed a shot, but one team lost over the other, and it was the team that fired first? That's right, you are punished for firing the first shot in a game of Dodgebolt under the current format. The reasoning is actually pretty simple. The team that gets 4 arrows first has the advantage because of the fact that there are 4 players on a team. Team A fired first, giving Team B 2 arrows to work with before Team A got their first 2 arrows. And by the time they do, they can only eliminate 3 out of 4 of the opposing team. Meanwhile, Team B gets 4 arrows first, giving them the first chance of ending the game. And if you're still confused, let me simplify it for you. Your team can have a 100% accuracy with your shots and still lose. Yeah. You could argue that because you funnel your arrows to the best player and in turn target the best players on the opposing team, along with the chance that even they will miss the shots they fire at you, that it effectively minimizes the chance of this happening. But it doesn't erase the fact that the team that fires first is at a disadvantage. This, in my opinion, is what needs to be changed. You can even see how it impacts the game. In MCC 11, Dream used the tactic of not firing the first shot so that they will be the first team to get 4 arrows, giving them the best chance of winning. You could also argue that the other team was kinda throwing the game by not targeting Dream, Sap, or George, and also not funneling the arrows to the best players on their team. And if you think I'm throwing shade at anyone for that statement, that's fine, but just know that Technoblade said the very same thing during that match, and I'd say his opinions are highly respectable.
He's not even shooting Dream. These guys are gonna get 3-0'd. He shot Carl! No! See, the thing is, Dream's gotten pretty good at Dodgebolt. So if Blue wants to win, they gotta take him out first. And they shot Carl first. Why do they shoot Carl? They're gonna lose 3-0 at this rate. Why are they shooting Carl? Dude, they're gonna get obliterated because Dream has the tactics. They funnel it to their best shot and then they kill the other team's best player. People mocked me. They said I was selfish and foolish and that I need to believe in friendship. Friendship sucks. Friendship sucks. Look at the power of friendship versus Dream. They're getting rolled. What are they doing? What are they doing? H-bomb, why? The friendship, it doesn't work, H-bomb. Friendship doesn't win games. Hidden shots wins games. They shoot Carl! I don't know what blue team is doing. They gotta target Dream and not Carl. And they're just letting Dream take out H-bomb. They gotta funnel the arrows to H-bomb, man. Friendship doesn't work. Friendship doesn't work. Dream's gonna roll all of them.
But frankly, we're not here to rip on those players. We're here to talk about how Dream's tactic can potentially host a problem. Because if the other team also understands that firing the first arrow is bad, then they'll just wait until the other team fires first. But if the other team is also aware of this tactic, then they also won't fire an arrow until the other team fires first, creating stalemates. You could argue that the people playing Dodgebolt won't let that happen, but like I said before, the very fact that it exists at all is enough to be a problem. I mean, Dream, Sap, George, and Carl were pretty adamant on not shooting any arrows and focusing on dodging. What if the other team does the same? Just saying. So, does any of this perhaps convince you that Dodgebolt could potentially be changed somehow so that the team that fires first isn't at an automatic disadvantage? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe Dodgebolt doesn't need to be changed at all. And frankly, as I've said a few times during this video, I will love the game of Dodgebolt regardless of what the rules are. I just see a problem that, in my opinion, needs to be fixed. Now, how to go at fixing it is another thing, and I have 2 solutions. The first solution is to give each team X number of seconds to fire their arrow before it gets automatically deposited to the other team. You can see real-world examples of this in the NBA, where if you take too long to shoot, then the other team gets the ball back. Or in the NFL, where if you take too long to snap the ball, then there's a penalty. Giving each team a time limit forces them to fire the arrow at some point before the deadline, so you can't just endlessly dodge anymore. If you were smart, you'd wait until the last second of the deadline to shoot so neither team gets 2 arrows first. Or rather, they get it at the same time. Now, is this a perfect solution? not really. I can see there being problems with this format. For example, by waiting until the last second, you have less time to aim your shot, potentially increasing the pressure and chance of missing. You could also argue that this doesn't really fix the problem. There's a chance that someone fires well before the deadline, giving the other team 2 arrows to work with first, which leads me to my second potential solution. Remember earlier when I was talking about how I wish there was some sort of advantage given to the first ranked team? Well, what if the first place team got both arrows first? And after that game is over, then the second place team gets both arrows first, and vice versa all the way through game 5. With this format, the first place team would get both of the arrows a maximum of 3 times, while the second place team would get both of the arrows a maximum of 2. This does 2 things simultaneously. It rewards the team that got first place while also not incentivizing the tactic Dream had where he just endlessly dodged until he got both arrows first. And hell, why not add a time limit anyways so the team that got both arrows first doesn't just endlessly wait until the other team tires themselves out by dodging like madmen for a few minutes. And finally, one last argument before I can't think of any others off the top of my head. You could argue that the team that got first place had the best overall team assembled, so giving them an even bigger advantage isn't exactly fair. And you'd have a point if the teams weren't balanced by MCC manually. MCC makes sure that no one team has an overwhelming advantage in players who are gods at the game. Is the system perfect? No. But it does mean that each team has a better chance of reaching the #1 spot fairly, instead of assembling the best roster. All of this means that whoever gets #1 deserves to be there by their team's performance, not by assembling a team of gods. And just like that, the video is drawing to its conclusion. For those of you who have made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope the video wasn't too boring to watch. I'd also like to clearly state that I do not own any of the clips I used in this video. Links to those videos and channels are in the description. I'd also like to say that whether or not Dodgebolt ever changes, I won't stop loving the game for all its beauty. I made this video because I love it and want to see it grow and improve. You could also just as easily say it doesn't need to be changed, and that's fine. After all, it's just my opinion. And now we get to the part of the video where I find a sick segue to the end screen, but I can't think of one. So, yeah.